Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Alien Force Retrospectives, and today we're going to be looking at episode 28 of Ben 10 Alien Force, Vengeance of Vilgax Part 2, and a recap of Part 1. As the name implies, Vilgax returns, he's back, he's ready to take revenge, and he's been preparing for this. He's been going from world to world and using this rule that if a challenger from one world, it's pretty much a conqueror's challenge. If two worlds are at war with each other, they both can send one of the bravest warriors to fight, and whoever wins rules both worlds. So, Vilgax came to Earth after conquering 10 worlds via this same method and stealing the powers of the other champions he's beaten. And so, he plans to do the same to Earth, and to all this just to get revenge on Ben. Ben, ever since after the War of the Worlds episode, has grown more arrogant and honestly annoying. If you watched the last vlog, you saw my rant on it. But because of in an attempt to make sure that Ben's at his best, Kevin had created a machine that whose sole purpose was to hack the Omnitrix, but Asma told him not to do it, so Ben did it. But then Ben did it anyway, and the end of the last episode had the device exploding while Kevin ran to go help Ben. So this episode picks up immediately after it. The garage where the device was is half blown up. Gwen manages to survive it, but when she starts looking around, she sees what looks like Ben as Chromastone coming out of the rubble, and she thinks he's okay, until she sees Spider Monkey do the same thing. She starts wondering what's going on, but then Ben comes out, only for Goop to come after. It turns out, and you're both realizing that, yeah, something's wrong. And it becomes even worse when Kevin manages to come out. It turns out that because he was so when he was so close to Ben, the explosion affected him too. It turns out that Kevin is now an amalgam again, only instead of being an amalgam of Ben's various aliens throughout the series, he's now an amalgam of all the materials he's absorbed throughout the show. Like, this half of his face is Tatanite, the rest of him and this part of his body are stone, this half is steel. For some reason, he has Speedos that are, I think, rubber, but they might just be black. And his legs are wood, and unfortunately, in the original series, he can't turn it off. He can't turn it off. Can't turn back, and he's just stuck. And on top of that, Ben manages to look through the Omnitrix, and it turns out the explosion actually got 4 of his aliens out of the Omnitrix. I don't know how it either. My personal theory is that the explosion bonded 4 pieces of alien DNA to Ben's own DNA, like if he was transforming. But because of the explosion, it went haywire. And as such, it just wound up creating 4 duplicates, and so it created 4 duplicates, and so it wound up creating 4 duplicates just without Ben in the driver's seat. That's my personal theory, but I don't know. Pretty much, the aliens that got out are Chromastone, Spider Monkey, Goop, and Waybig, which even Ben wonders how he got away. And it's at that point that Azimuth calls him, and yeah, he's pissed. He's pissed that Ben outright ignored him. And while he tells Ben while he does tell Ben about how how his transformations will perish if he doesn't get him back, and that he can use the capture mode, the yellow setting if you're wondering, to get them back. After this, he's not going to be helping Ben again because he's severely disappointed in him, which becomes a more recurring theme throughout this series, through Season 3, Ultimate Alien, and unfortunately Omniverse. Ben's relationship with Azimuth does sour after this episode. It gets on my nerves, but it's another consequence of Ben's behavior. But pretty much. So the group realizes they need to go out and get Ben's transformations, and the thing with each transformation is that, well, like I said, my personal theory is that they're still somewhat considered Omnitrix transformations, so they all have Omnitrix symbols on them. So they managed to track all 3 transformations. They managed to track Chromastone, Spider Monkey, and Goop through their Omnitrixes using Gwen and Kevin's plumber badges. But there is more tension. Kevin is more angry because he's an amalgam again, and he can't turn back. Ben's on edge. Kevin is more angry at him. And it's justified. But then there's still the issue of Vilgax, because he said that he'd be coming back in 24 hours, and the battle's only a few hours away, so they gotta work fast. So So through their own so they managed to find Chroma Stone, Spider Monkey, and Goop through various ways. Chroma Stone, and here's another thing that they find out. They end up battling them because without Ben in the driver's seat, all the aliens are just running on instinct. They're just attacking wildly, doing predatory stuff. Like they find Chroma Stone beating up a ride at the amusement pier, Spider Monkey laying a trap, and even Goop attacking people in the sewer, or just at least attacking them in the sewer. But pretty much, it's actually we see through these battles more what's happening. They're pretty much just standard go get and suck back in standard stuff. But as early as the first battle, we wind up seeing some new stuff. For example, while Kevin's form has now been Kevin can no longer absorb anything because he's an amalgam of the materials. He does have one bonus though. It turns out that with this new form, he's discovered a new part of his powers. He can actually reshape his body into weapons. Like when he fights Chroma Stone, he unknowingly turns his hand into a mace. When they're captured when they fight Spider Monkey, Gwen gets webbed up, and so he turns his steel hand into scissors, and actually manages to cut her out. It actually is a nice little thing that comes up, but also as early as the first battle, we see something else. The explosion, as it was stated, the explosion released several aliens, but it also released them because Ben busted the Omnitrix, basically. It's busted. Like, it still will function. Like, Ben can still transform into his aliens, but now it's now has problems with it. And essentially, it's just a means of trying to make it like the classic series, because those problems consist of Ben timing out when he hasn't transformed too many times, and sometimes getting the wrong transformation. For example, when Ben, Gwen, and Kevin went to confront Chroma Stone, Ben decided he was going to go Humongousaur to try and fight him, but instead he wound up with Upchuck. And honestly, I think that's the only reason why it was introduced, to try and make it more like the classic series, which, It was a little annoying, but it forced Ben to adapt in the first series, which I'm okay with. Ben, that's what type of person Ben was, and still is. He's creative even when he gets the wrong form, he still manages to find a way to work with it, which I like. And they still kind of keep that same thing in Alien Force, even with this. It's obviously just still introduced to try and make it like the classic series, including with a timeout feature. But that's all I'm really saying. So anyway, again, they managed to get Chroma Stone, Spider Monkey, and Goop, but unfortunately, Waybig is an hour away, and by that point, well, it's almost an hour away. The battle's almost an hour away. Even though it's night when they say that, and then the next scene it's day. So pretty much Ben decides that he'll go face Vilgax by himself, while Gwen and Kevin can go get Waybig. And so Ben goes to the designated spot, and Ben goes to the designated spot. There are cameras all over, and Vilgax teleports down, and they proceed to fight. And admittedly, it's still nice, and I do like seeing that. It actually does, and it does actually bring back something that's consistent between classic and the classic series and the Alien Force. Ben's quipping, and this is the type of arrogance that I'm actually kind of okay with, because in Ben's case, it's that stuff of him that shows his character, and is one of the things I still liked. Like, he has fun with what he does. He likes fighting bad guys, even when he knows it's serious. He still tries to enjoy what he's doing, and this type of attitude fighting Vilgax, it throws people like Vilgax off their game, which I'm okay with. But while Ben is still able to hold his own for a little while, Vilgax, with all of his new powers, is still stronger. He manages to knock aside Jet Ray, break through Big Chill's ice, and he even manages to pound Humongousaur into the ground. But just before he can win, Gwen and Kevin show up with Waybig, and so Ben turns back. Waybig is absorbed back into the Omnitrix, and so Ben gets Waybig dial up, gets ready to slam down because Waybig beat Vilgax before, and he ends up turning into Chroma Stone. Yep. But again, Ben tries to make do with what best he can. He still keeps trying to fight Vilgax. He keeps blasting him off, but Vilgax is unfortunately prepared, as I think I might have mentioned that in the last video. I don't know. As he pulls out a sword and he lines it with diamond or tatanite or whatever, and he manages to use it to block a laser. Ben keeps trying to push it on and on and on, but the sword just keeps absorbing it. And so finally, Ben's used up so much power that when Vilgax is close enough, he falls to his knees. And Vilgax, with as much strength as he can muster, he raises the sword up, and even after all this time, it's still kind of shocking. He shatters Ben. Like, he completely destroys him. All that's left of Ben is shards and the Omnitrix. Which, yeah, it is kind of it was shocking when I was a kid. So, Vilgax thinks he's won. Siphon grabs the Omnitrix from the crystals and hands it to Vilgax, but just before Vilgax can grab it, it starts to glow. And suddenly it starts floating, and all the chromostone shards start pooling towards it, and thus we get the reappearance of one of the original 10. Not a new alien from the classic series, one of the originals, as we learn that apparently that chromostone has been because of this chromostone's been locked out. But in his place, we get Diamond Head. And yes, it's nice to see one of the original 10 back. I liked seeing Cannonball, Upchuck, and Waybig, but it's nice to actually see one of the original 10 back. I like it, and I like that his design is different. Like, it's still the same body type, he still has the arms, the same head, and he has the same powers. In fact, we actually see more of his powers because, as Ben says, when he transforms, he's had a lot of experience with this one. He's still able to create diamond walls to help himself, he's able to shoot diamond shards, and he actually can pull diamond from the ground and lift it and make it float in the air and use it as weapons. I like that. It's still nice. And the bot and his suit's also changed. He now, instead of having the original black and white suit with the Omnitrix over on his left breast, it's now the same. It's the same purple diamond suit that Chromostone wore, with the Omnitrix on his chest now. But anyway, Ben is able to. Now that Ben's one of the original 10, he's able. He's now an alien that he's had more experience with. He manages to subdue Vilgax, crush him under Diamond, and get him to yield. And so Vilgax's fleet retreats. Max tells Ben that he manages to use Plumber Tech to intercept the TV signal, so his secret's safe. And even though that Ben has screwed up a lot, the team, Gwen, and Kevin still decide to still be a team. And so, yeah, overall, Vengeance of Vilgax is an alright episode. Is an alright two-parter. Nothing amazing, but it's alright. Mostly because there are parts of it that I like and some parts I don't. What parts I like is the fact that for example, I don't think I mentioned this, but Gwen and Kevin now had new outfits, with Gwen getting a new costume, and you saw Ben with a car repairman's uniform, even having his little name tag. But in this case, what's pretty much different about this, but in this set of events, I'm getting tongue-tied, but some things that I like are that they try and incorporate some more stuff from the classic series into this one. I like seeing Cannonbolt. I like that they're trying to bring back I like that Ben still has access to the 3 aliens he turned into in War of the Worlds. I like that they brought back Diamond Head. I like that because it's going back to the classic series, and I'm okay with that. I like that they brought in Vilgax. I still like the fighting, and I do. And while the parts with Ben's aliens getting out was just kind of filler to pad out the episode, I did kind of like that. I did like that. It's a very interesting premise, and I like seeing that Vilgax has learned over the years. But there are still some parts I don't like. And I already went on a tangent in the last vlog about how I don't like Ben's attitude. And I think I'll talk about it a little bit more here, because after watching this episode, I think maybe he's getting a little too arrogant. Like, Return/Be Afraid of the Dark arrogant. And if you remember that vlog, I didn't like Ben's attitude, because while Ben was arrogant in the classic series, he was never that arrogant. And unfortunately, that seems to be the arrogance levels that they were going for in this season, which I don't like. It got on my nerves, especially when Ben was just being so cavalier, to the point where when Gwen and Kevin are seeing his transformation, he was the first to see Kevin as he was, and while Gwen and Kevin are worrying about it, he's just going to look through the Omnitrix like, oh yeah, that's right, yeah. Which annoys me, and I understand you worrying about the Omnitrix because there was a big explosion, But still, Kevin's been turned into a freak again, and you're just like, whatever. But and again, maybe later they do state that maybe he was more ignorant because he asked Kevin why he doesn't turn back, and Kevin does angrily and rightfully tell him he can't turn back, and yeah, is one of the moments where Ben realizes, oh, I fucked up, didn't I? Yeah. While I'm talking about Kevin's amalgam, I'm just gonna state my opinions right here. It's my least favorite of Kevin's amalgam forms out of all of them. And it's mostly just because it's pretty standard. Like, one of the things that I like about all of Kevin's amalgam forms is that they have all this raw power. Because they're amalgams, they all have all these combined abilities. They're all stronger, and because they're again amalgams, the designs can be very creative and very nice. Seeing one part of one alien mixed with a part of another, I like seeing those, and even seeing them grow and seeing how the powers intermingle, how they affect Kevin. I like seeing that. But this one's just pretty standard, because all that's changed with the only thing that's changed physically with Kevin are that his body is now made of different materials. Physically, he still looks the same. He's got the same hairdo, same body, same face, except now he's wearing Speedos, which may or may not be made of rubber. I don't know. But that's pretty much it. His powers are still the same. His powers are now just all. The only benefits of this are that Kevin learns that he can reshape his body into weapons, which I admit is actually pretty cool. But still, when it comes to comparing, I suppose you can say Terra Kevin to, say, Kevin 11 or Kevin 11,000, or even the eventual Ultimate Kevin or the mutations in Omniverse, he's my least favorite. It's really just so basic. There's nothing large or there's nothing that large or big about it. It's just various materials. That's it. So again, I think that, and then of course there's the breaking of the Omnitrix. That does get on my nerves, and it is a direct. And I know it's supposed to be a direct it's supposed to be a direct consequence of Ben's arrogance and complete ignoring of Azimuth, and that's something that does get on my nerves too. That Ben. And because of this change, Ben's relationship with Azimuth just turns sour. And even at points when Azimuth does kind of still consider Ben a good person, it's still sour. And it doesn't help throughout the series. And it just kind of fluctuates throughout the rest of the series. And that's one of the lasting consequences of this episode. And again, another lasting consequence is bringing back some of the more malfunctioning aspects of the Omnitrix. That, like, Ben's now on a timer again, or that the Omnitrix or Ben may sometimes get the wrong alien. Combine that with Ben's attitude, all that together does start kind of makes you want, kind of ultimately brings up one of the biggest flaws I have with this, and just kind of with season 3 altogether, I felt like that this was just them trying to get classic series fans back, like incorporating these aliens from the classic series. And then making Ben have this attitude again, and just including those elements. I think what they were trying to do is that they were trying to bring back try to appeal to the classic series fans and say, "Oh look, it's like classic series. You can watch it again. No, of course you can." Like the classic series fans the ones that they lost when transitioning to Alien Force. And honestly, I don't like that. I think it's kind of. And they tried to have their cake and eat it too, but unfortunately, it doesn't mesh with what Alien Force was. I think that they could have incorporated some other elements from the classic series, like the aliens. I would have liked that, but I would have liked that. But and even then, in the Alien Force, they still say that they still had the timeout function, but it just had more restrictions to it because of the more control that Ben had with the Omnitrix. I don't think this is the best way that they could have done that. I think they should have just stuck with what they had. Because Ben 10 Alien Force in seasons 1 and 2, while I will admit, it wasn't as up to snuff as the classic series, it was still good. You still had a mature Ben who still had some of the more sillier aspects. You saw his relationship with Gwen still being strong. You saw them working with Kevin, a former enemy. They had more mature moments. They had more complex storytelling. I was okay with that. But just for this to suddenly say, oh, it's like the classic series again, that gets on my nerves a little. And I could be wrong. Maybe they decided to go in a different direction. And I've even heard that there was someone that was brought on, I don't remember his name. Sorry. Someone was brought on that preferred the classic series and thought maybe that Ben 10 had to go back to its roots about just some dumb kid with a watch and all that. I don't remember his name, but that's what I heard. And that could easily be the reason why. But whatever the cause, I didn't think it was something that didn't need to be done, and unfortunately, it's a problem that persists beyond Vengeance of Vilgax and just permeates throughout Season 3. And again, don't get me wrong, Season 3 didn't kill Alien Force for me. I still enjoyed it enough to stick through watching it all the way to Ultimate Alien, but it is still flawed, and unfortunately, some of the problems that I brought up here will be repeated in other episodes, so But again, overall, Vengeance of Vilgax, or what it was alright. There were some parts I liked, some parts I didn't. Just overall, it's just alright. Nothing great, just alright. So, yeah. Thanks for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and tune in next week where we shall look at the next episode of Ben 10 Alien Force. Bye.